Graph the polynomial function on your own graph paper, then choose the correct graph. The polynomial function is given in factored form, so what we're going to do is we're going to plot the zeros and then use a couple of test points to figure out what the rest of the shape of the graph should look like and also apply the end behavior. So let's look. We have x plus 3 squared, which is a repeated zero, and what that means, x equals negative 3 is a zero, and it's also a turning point. A repeated zero means you have a turning point. And let's see, x minus 1, x equals 1 is another zero, and that's not a turning point, so the graph's just going to pass through. Let me plot these 2 points, negative 3 and positive 1. Now I'm going to do a couple of input-outputs just to get an idea of where the graph is. Okay, so let me do an input of 0. That's an easy one to figure out. F of 0 equals negative 1/2 times 0 plus 3 squared times 0 minus 1, which equals negative 1/2 times 9 times negative 1. And then that's going to equal negative 1/2 times 9 is negative 9/2, then times negative 1 is 9/2. Same thing as 4.5. So I'm going to go up 9/2. There's a point right there. I'm going to input 2. Negative 1/2 times 2 plus 3 squared, then times 2 minus 1. That equals negative 1/2. 2 plus 3 is 5, and 5 squared is 25. Then times 2 minus 1, which is 1. So this is equal to negative 25/2. And that's negative 12.5. So 2 and then negative 12.5, that's going to be right about there. Alright, now, I'm going to use the knowledge of end behavior to finish this graph. The degree is odd degree. That means you're going to have one way going up, one way going down, and negative for a leading coefficient. And I know this x minus 3 is a turning point, which means the graph has to come down, hit it, and then go back up this way. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch this. And we know it's going to go down to the right like this. Like that. And what it's going to do is it's going to come around this way and hit that right there, and then up, kind of like that. Okay, so there's a sketch of the graph, and we used the zeros, and we used a couple of test points, and that's all I need to do.